Today, we are talking about what are the challenges that are facing twirlers of color and how do we work together to overcome them. This is Beyond the Steps. It is Friday at 2 p.m. and we are so very happy to have Olivia Lynch here, the co-founder of Black Baton Twirlers Network, to talk about this extremely unique topic. I can honestly say in 3 seasons, we have not even broached this subject, and we are so excited to do so today. You might notice that my amazing and wonderful co-host is not here today. She is away at a trade show, telling everyone about the wonderful Apollo products that they have. And I'm going to be doing this solo for the first time on our new platform. So wish me luck. If you have comments, questions, posts, reshare, do anything to make sure that this information gets out. I'm loving seeing all of the people from Olivia's network coming on here on Instagram and all of our friends who are regular viewers of the show. I'm getting set up over here on Facebook to make sure that we are good to go. So, like I said, this is a subject that we have not ever really touched on. We are talking about what are the challenges facing twirlers of color and how we can work together to overcome them. We want to know what you think. We want you to share this information. This content is totally free and it is there for the dance and performance athletics community. So please share, like, repost, subscribe, all of those wonderful things. We are on YouTube at Apollo Performance. We are on Instagram at Apollo Performance and TP Dance Creations. We are also on Facebook at Apollo Performance. So please join us and let others know that we are on right now. So, without further ado, I want to talk about Olivia, who is an amazing new guest for this season, the first time that we have had Olivia on. Olivia was a competitive baton twirler for 22 years. She's the first African American to win the Congressional Cup Invitational. She's an accomplished baton twirling champion. Some of her junior world performing arts some of her credits are performing arts champion 2004, preteen guard national champion 2006 and 2009, and 2012 NBTA World Baton Team champion with the Wheaton Dance Twirl Team, 2010 USTA Northeast Regional Solo Champion, and 2013 Disney Night of Stars Specialty Act winner. Your talent is amazing. I have never done this. I cannot wait to learn more about twirling. She has had her dual bachelor's degree in public relations and advertising from Point Park University. She currently works at the University of Pittsburgh in the Alumni Association as the manager of young alumni and student programs. She focuses on community building, professional development, and traditions. Olivia is still involved in the sport of baton twirling. She is one of the baton twirling instructors at Howard University, Dazzling Diamond Twirlers. Olivia is the co-founder and president of Black Baton Twirlers Network, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. Black Baton Twirlers Network is a pioneering and positive change in redefining what it means to be inclusive in the sport of baton twirling. They're building a network that connects twirlers, grows their real-world knowledge, resources, and elevates their twirl. Olivia, thank you so much for being here with us.
Of course, and thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm just going to jump right in because we jump right in here at Beyond the Steps at the very base level, and I definitely need base level for this subject. I've seen it, I've admired it, but I don't know much about it. So I remember back in the day, and I'm dating myself, way back in the day, when baton was a category in the competitive dance circuit, but I know that none of us knew anything about it. So is it a really large community? And is it still growing or is it dwindling? Because I don't see it that much anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely a large community. I think baton really hasn't had the exposure as our other performing arts sports like dance, cheerleading, ice skating. But it is a large community and it's continuing to grow. And there's so many different types of baton twirling, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that you can get involved. So definitely there, 60s and 70s, that's really where the height of baton twirling. You would see it in commercials, you would see it in the movies, okay. And hopefully we're getting back to that with the growth of baton twirling and some of the things that our sport is working on.
So 60s and 70s were the height of it. How did you get into baton twirling? Was it a family thing? How did you end up there?
No, it's definitely not a family thing. So I'm adopted. My mom actually, she was a field hockey champion, and she actually was on Team USA, and she really wanted me to go in that. So she was very upset that I decided to go into
Field hockey, twirling, yeah.
no. Great sport is not my thing. So actually, I started kindergarten early, and my kindergarten teacher told my mom, I went to Catholic school, and she told my mom, like, hey, like, your daughter can't hold a pencil. Like, we need to figure this out. Um, and she kind of recommended baton twirling because some of the basics is just that mechanics of holding a pencil. And, I saw it in the parade one day and I was like, all right, mom, sign me up. So that was kind of my journey, a little bit kooky, but definitely thank Miss Bailey for starting me on my journey.
Wow, look at that. A teacher started you on a journey that was 22 years long. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I hear the term baton and the term twirling. You kind of alluded to it a little bit ago. Are they interchangeable? Is it appropriate to use them interchangeably?
Yeah, so I see it like this. Baton is the sport, and you can either say baton twirling, and then the action is twirling. But you can use them interchangeably. We won't get offended either way. There's also like
Okay.
majorette. That word kind of flies around too, depending on where you are at or schools and stuff. But definitely baton and baton twirling or baton. You can interchangeably use
So
them.
is being a majorette the same thing?
Yes. Well, it depends on what you're talking about because there's majorette with the baton and then there's majorette dance, like you see at
Uh-huh.
HBCUs,
Right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna
bring it
say. Yeah.
on like that. But majorette, it comes from the actual like baton twirling majorette.
Okay. Okay. So are there different, so like in dance, there's tap, there's jazz, there's lyrical, there's ballet. Are there different genres of baton?
There's different levels of baton twirling. So we have recreational, and that can be, marching in parades. It could be,
Mm-hmm.
a school performance or community level. Then you have like our highest level, which is like our competitive level. And that's from novice all the way to elite level where you get to travel the world and represent your country and just meet some really awesome people from internationally. There's
Mm-hmm.
also, you could twirl for your school. So from middle school, high school, and college. And depending on where you go, the technique and the style, I should say, that's kind of what I'm alluding to. The style is a little bit different. So what you
Really?
see at a HBCU school may not be the same that you see at like Penn State University. And I twirled for the
Mm-hmm.
University of Pittsburgh. So everybody's style is a little bit different. We
Okay.
have different events within baton twirling. So kind of think of categories or, like the balance beam for gymnastics versus floor routine. We have those, but it's more of the different styles, but it has the basics is all there.
Okay. And for those of you who are listening, who are coming in, Olivia's mentioning HBCUs. That's the acronym for Historically Black Colleges and Universities. So we like to make sure that we are letting everybody know the baseline information and definitely not assuming that everybody knows because everybody may not. So HBCU is an acronym for Historically Black College and or University. So I've seen action shots of you, Olivia. You sent me a few amazing extension, lovely jetés, lovely upper body work, and it looks like some of the technique is very interconnected with dance. Talk a little bit about the interconnectedness of twirling to dance.
Yeah, so there are a lot of correlations between dance, also gymnastics and ice skating. It's that hand-eye coordination. I think a lot of our movements, especially one of our categories is strut, has a lot of dance
Hmm.
movements. So grand jetés, torsités, pirouettes, all of that is ingrained into the sport. And our technique is there. So we all pull up on a releve in fifth position or fourth position, depending on what you're working on. But there's definitely interchangeably. I know when I was just starting, I actually started in dance and then I picked up baton.
Okay.
So there's a lot of dance studios that offer baton twirling and then vice versa. There's a lot of baton studios or groups that offer dance as well because it is really important to be able to elevate yourself as an athlete and be able to do a lot of the movements. You have to have that flexibility, the musicality. So they really align each other hand in hand.
Mhm. Absolutely. So where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from Easton, Pennsylvania. So it's the home of Crayola Crayons, Crayola
Okay.
Corporation. So the Lehigh Valley area. And then I'm currently in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Okay. I was asking because I don't know, is it a geographic thing? Do you find that in different parts of the country it's bigger than other? I mean, I know in the South it used to be huge in the South. Do you find it's different in geographic areas?
I think there's different types of twirling in different geographical areas. So definitely in the South, there's a lot of majorette groups, and they are
Okay.
fantastic. They spin those batons like I can't do that, and just stay in step and just flip like it's amazing. But yes, I do think it's geographically, and it just depends on what opportunities and resources are available in your area. So we
Okay.
do have, I would say the majority of the United States has some type of twirling opportunity, but it just kind of depends on the level and the different style that they have.
Mhm. Awesome. For those of you who are just joining us, we are talking to Olivia Lynch, co-founder of Black Baton Twirlers Network today about the challenges that are facing twirlers of color and how we can work together to alleviate those challenges and overcome those challenges. If you are tuning in from Instagram, please tag somebody who would benefit from this conversation or who would find it interesting. If you are on YouTube, please share and subscribe. And if you're on Facebook, please share as well. And these episodes will be available at TP Dance Creations at Apollo Performance after this and on our podcast. Remember, we said we're doing a podcast. We are going to be coming out with our first series of podcast episodes in December. So make sure that you are on the lookout for that. Olivia, I want to get into the racial diversity topic around twirling. So racial diversity has been an area in need of improvement in the dance industry. I don't for eons and eons and eons. Is it the same in twirling?
Yeah, I definitely think that there is some area of growth. And I think starting the Black Baton Twirlers Network, really stepping out of my bubble of baton twirling, I've met
Mm-hmm.
so many people that have been in the dance space, ice skating, gymnastics, and it's all kind of the same thing. We still have some of the same barriers with resources. So definitely something that needs improvement, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
So is it that the do you think is lacking representation? Like how many times I know when I was a dancer back in 90s into, early to no, it was the late 90s. No, it was late 80s and 90s. Sorry, I was moving my timeline up. Late 80s all the way into the 90s when I was a competitive dancer. I could be when I went to a competition one of three.
Yep.
Is it do you feel that representation and then even representation at the level of being a choreographer or a teacher or a leader like you have been? Do you feel like there's a lack of representation there?
There is, and I think it's just the exposure, to be honest. I
Okay.
think there are a lot of professional Black baton twirlers, twirlers of color. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like we don't know that they're out there. Just like you said, like going to a competition in the elite level, there is maybe one, two, or three of us. Um, and I really didn't know a lot of other twirlers until I started this. And I'm like, hey, we were at the same competition. Like, how did we not see each
Not
other?
see each other,
You
right?
know what I mean? Like, and there's so many people before me that have done some amazing things, but I just never saw them. So I definitely think it's a lack of representation in our athletic level, our elite levels, also in our judging and,
Mm-hmm.
choreography and clinics too. But I think, again,
Mm-hmm.
it's an area of improvement. And I think the more people speak up about it and just like how they have a love for the sport, I think there'll be a change.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of alluded to access. Isn't it an expensive endeavor? A dance is a very expensive endeavor, and I know a lot of like travel baseball, travel sports are very expensive. Is baton as expensive of an endeavor as I think it might be?
It depends on the level. I think there's definitely opportunities to fundraise. So it's not accessibility itself, but it's just knowing the resources. But yes, I would say it's on the level as dance, ice skating. I feel like any activity now has its expenses, but definitely depending on what level you on, you have some added expenses, especially if you're traveling internationally or
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to multiple competitions a year. So it
Mm-hmm.
honestly depends on like what your engagement within the sport is.
Mhm. So do you think that's the biggest challenge to growing in the population of people of color in this sport, or do you think there's other factors that are challenging?
I don't know if that's one of our biggest challenges. I think just like as a whole, that's a challenge for baton twirling. And I think any like activity, we just don't have the financial support for to like support athletes. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's a challenge for the sport of baton twirling. I don't think that's really like a racial
Mm-hmm.
barrier, but I do think some of our barriers, and you know this as being a competitive dancer, like skin tone tights, skin tone shoes, you know,
Mm-hmm.
my mom used to dye my shoes, and so for baton twirlers we have a shoe called Insteps, and they have like a rubber bottom on them. So there's currently not a company that makes, you know, skin tone shoes. I was very excited when I saw skin toned jazz shoes and ballet shoes. I called my mom and she's like, why are you excited? Like you're retired. I was like, I know, but it's so cool. You
No,
know, like
right.
it's just the little things in life, you know? So I think those are the barriers, is just not having the resources available. And if you don't have a coach that has access to that or experience to that, because they're not twirls of color, they don't know
Mm-hmm.
where to look. So I think that's definitely a barrier. Also, you know, hair is another thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're just getting to a space where natural curly hair is great, but
Yes.
baton twirling has a pageant factor, and you know, it's you know, straight hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just finding a space where you can feel authentically yourself, I think, is a as a barrier, but also the representation. I think when you don't have twirlers that can see the success of a former baton twirler or a judge, like it just doesn't motivate you. So when you don't have that space or that community, that's a barrier in itself. So I would definitely say representation is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Resources like performance wear, and
Yeah.
then you know financials is always going to be an issue. But I think those two big things, representation and you know performance wear, are the two biggest barriers.
I want to talk about the hair issue. Because that's been big in dance, and I have said, and I have seen in the last 10 years, and I know as a competition director, definitely, uh, kind of walk the walk and talk the talk of, listen, the slick back bun, it's great, it's wonderful, but there are ways that we can achieve this level of uniformity and professional appearance and
Yeah.
cleanliness, even if you have locks or if you have curly hair,
Right.
if you're wearing braids. Is that same type of affirming nature happening in twirling?
Yeah, and I think it's just again that education factor, and I think our organizations are doing a good job of trying to educate judges on like
Mm-hmm.
what is appropriate, what is okay to wear, is locks okay, you know what I mean? It's just again that education. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's been out there to the massive public unless you are looking for it. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely something that we've been working on. And when you say uniformity, that kind of goes into our tights and shoes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
with groups, you always think like it was so funny. I would always like in my teams where I would have like skirts or anything like that, I would always be wearing the same tights and shoes as my teammates because of that uniformity. So my
Mm-hmm.
hands and my arms were a different color. And um, you know, when you are doing solo or something like that, I was always allowed to wear my skin tone shoes and tights, but not everybody has that. So I think it's just, again, that education of like, there's now companies out there that provide those items. And hopefully eventually a baton twirling shoe will get there, but jazz shoes at least you can wear. But yes, that uniformity I think is a big thing. And I don't think it's just baton twirling. I think it's dance. I think it's ice
Oh
skating, like
yeah.
anything that's a group that it's just you automatically think everybody has to look the same, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the same skin tone to do that.
Right. To do that exactly. I don't remember if it was a show. It might have been a show in season one, but the example that someone brought up was, okay, we can be uniform. Everybody wear coffee color tights. In. How does that work? If we put everybody in coffee color tights and coffee color shoes, we're uniform, right? And then it's like crickets because you're like, well, no. Oh, well, it works the same way. And it works the same way in reverse. We're all wearing suntan, which is not suntan for anyone, by the way. If anyone has ever seen suntan tights or tan shoes, I call them raw chicken color. They end up being raw chicken color, and that doesn't look good on anyone. That's not anyone's skin tone, y'all. But we are getting there. Like you said, there's a way to be uniform and still remain authentic
Yep.
and make sure that we are affirming of all the beautiful and wonderful shades of skin that we have. So, hint to the people who make twirler shoes. What do you call them? Insteps.
Yep. In steps.
It's time.
Cougars.
It's time. It's time. So, how does racism? I know we talked about the costume and we talked about the hair. Racial inequity and racial marginalization, are those the primary ways that it shows up in twirling, or have you ever had any experiences where, I guess, the lack of representation caused like conflict or tenseness or situations where you may not have necessarily been treated in a fair way, or even someone you know?
Yeah. I don't think it shows up that it's not as prominent as you think.
Okay.
I definitely think that sometimes Twirls of Color feel like they don't have, again, like that community, that
Mm-hmm.
space where they feel like they belong. And I've talked to a lot of parents that saw me go through my struggles and, just me as an elite level twirler and just
Mm-hmm.
being one of the only Black twirlers in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And now having daughters or sons being in there, and they're like, I didn't realize how isolating it is until my your child's in it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think one instance is I was at a performance and there was it was a big performance. And we had twirlers from all across the United States. It was great. It was awesome to have everybody together. I had such a great time. But there was a point where there were, these television crews coming around and these interviewers, and a few of them were Black, and they saw me
Mm-hmm.
twirling and doing my thing, you know what I mean? So they interviewed me, but they
Mm-hmm.
didn't interview the people that I was with, the
Mm-hmm.
higher level twirlers. And normally normally it's the opposite that
Mm-hmm.
happens. So of course, when you see a Black twirler and you're in that industry, you're just like, okay, I want to lift this person up. So they came over and interviewed me. It was so great. I had a lot of fun. And I heard in the background, oh, it's just because she's Black. And I was like,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
and so I turned around, and I'm normally a shy person. Like, anybody you talk to, I was always the shy, introverted, like, didn't really talk a lot. I love my books. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I turned around and I said, but what about my talent? Like, we're all on the same level here.
Right.
It just because I'm Black doesn't mean that I don't belong here. And I think that sometimes I have that imposter syndrome because am I here for my talent or am I here for my color of my skin? And of course it was because of my talent, but because like there is so many things around me and people around me talking like that, it just kind of, it gets to you. And I think it adds a lot of extra pressure because you want to be the best. And I think the best quote, Ernie Davis, I love him. He in Express, someone said like, oh, you're going to be the best Black football player. And he was like, well, no, that's not what I'm trying to be. I'm just trying to be the best. Like, I want to, like, that's not, you know what I mean? Like, that's me, but I also, like, am good. Like, I want to attain that. So I think just getting out of that mindset is hard. But definitely experience that made me grow as an individual and really kind of think about, like, okay, I need to continue to step up and mentor and, educate people about like how that could be hurtful. You know what I mean? And we were teens. So like teens said crazy things. But just like understanding like that's hurtful to me,
Right. It's hurtful and it's not necessarily true. I mean, the assumption is, I think, when there are very few people of color, when a person of color is highlighted, it's because they are a person of color. And that's not necessarily the case. But then there's also, and this goes into a whole new show and another show, but then there's also the intentional act of centering people of color in spaces where they are not highly represented. Like there is an intentional act of centering marginalized groups that should be present.
Right. Right. And I think the like a perfect example of that is the Winter Olympics when there were so many milestones in first.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like I was talking to my boyfriend at the time. I was just like, hey, like this would have been perfect for, you know, the Olympics to say like, hey, want to get involved, want to
Mm-hmm.
continue on this journey, like here's how you can get involved in your area, like go to this website. But there is nothing. So I
Mm-hmm.
think like it's great that you're elevating us to a space that we should be looked at as equal, but like let's continue on that journey and showcase how you can get there yourself
Right.
too.
Exactly. How important is community? I know that we talked about community just a few minutes ago when you were telling your story, and I'm Black Baton Twirlers Network seems to develop that community. Is
Yep.
that how you kind of got on the journey to develop the organization?
I think my background is in public relations and advertising, but I've always had this love of creating a community and safe space. So BBTN started with like a two-part series. It was like a talk show like this, talking about different things about baton twirling. And someone
Mm-hmm.
brought up of like, how do we get more twirlers of color engaged? It was just right after some riots with Black Lives Matter. So I just like messaged the host and I said my answers. Like, I don't want to be on camera, like, but I want to tell you, like, this is how we need to do it. Ended up 2 things later, I messaged one of my good friends, John Mitchell, and he's a judge and he's just fantastic and just like one of my mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, no one's really doing anything, and I want to create this. I've heard from a lot of people that they just don't feel like they have a space that they belong. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to create a space that was not only safe for Black baton twirlers, but for any twirler.
Mm-hmm.
All of our opportunities, events, membership is open to all because
Okay.
there's
I was
this
gonna
space
ask
of
that.
it's diversity, it's
Mm-hmm.
inclusion, but we're also lifting up twirlers of color. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely that's kind of where my love of it. And I always get so excited when I hear these stories or connections or just like, you know, just this growth within a twirler, or, you know, if we get to connect a twirler with a brand, like that's where I'm all about it. I'm about
Mm-hmm.
uplifting others and celebrating them no matter what, you know, it's just like the little things that get me excited.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Do you now is this a membership platform that you have, or is it just kind of an open community?
Yeah, so there's a few things. Like all of our opportunities are open to the public. We do
Mm-hmm.
have a membership that helps you like get some discounts. So we have 2 partnerships. So one is with Lavender Leaps and Leotard, which is a national retailer. They have brands like Aurora Tights, Blends, Capizio, and they also just launched their own ballet line, and it's all different skin tones. It's fantastic. But one of the reasons why we connect with them is because they promote diversity inclusion. They're a Black-owned, woman-owned business. The other one is Aurora Tights, which
Mm-hmm.
is another Black-owned, woman-owned business, and they are, you know, diversity inclusion infused. But
Mm-hmm.
being able to connect you to those organizations, no matter if you're a member or not. So
Okay.
that's part of the membership, but really it's just kind of to educate the sport of baton twirling, educate our professional development, so judges, you know, studio owners, program owners. So you don't have to necessarily be a member. We have a lot of people that follow us on Instagram or, you know, just reach out for one-time help. We just want to be able to be that one-stop shop. And then if you want to become a member, that's awesome. But if not, that's okay too.
So Lavender Leaps and Leotards?
Yep, Labrador
Okay.
Leaps and Leotards, 3 L's for short. And then Aurora Tights is
Okay.
the other one.
Okay. I'm typing
And they're
these in the
both great
chat so people
partners
can.
and, you know, both have gone through similar stories in dance, ice skating.
Mhm.
So it's really great to kind of see those interconnected stories and us trying to uplift the community one pair of tights and one pair of shoe at a time, you know.
Exactly. Now I know you said that the community, and here I go off on a tangent, y'all. You know I like to highlight when I'm off on a tangent. I'm taking Olivia down the tangent road because I have so many questions based on what she said. I'm gonna go back to one of them later, but I do want to talk
Yeah.
about, the community being open to everyone. I know that when we started Beyond the Steps in the middle of the pandemic, right at the beginning of the pandemic, like October of 2020 is when the first show aired, and a lot of it is in response to people with the pandemic and being able to put eyes on the George Floyd tragedy,
Yep.
the murder of George Floyd, and saying, what do we do? Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not a person of color, but I feel that this is the time for me to do something and step up. Do you find that people who are not people of color who are in are involved in the network are just in that space where they're like, I want to help. I realize this is an issue and I want to be a part of something like this.
Yeah, 100%. I think when George Floyd happened and a few other instances happened, I had a lot of people reach out like, how can I infuse diversity and inclusion into the space? How can I uplift twirlers of color, people of color? And that kind of spurred me of like, okay, I need to create this resource, this network
Mm-hmm.
that not only helps support, celebrate, and promote twirlers of color, but helps elevate the sport of baton twirling and kind of work through some of these improvements and gaps
Mm-hmm.
in the space. So definitely our membership are the people that connect with us, that are partners with us.
Mm-hmm.
That not all of them are people of color.
Mm-hmm.
We accept everybody because we
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to be supportive and, help any person of color or twirler that wants to elevate themselves professionally within the DEI space, or just building that community, because it's going to take a village. It's just not one race that's going to make that change. So we really
Right.
do need that buy-in, that allyship from other cultures and races to be able to elevate us to a different sport.
Mm-hmm. For those of you who are just joining us, we are talking to Olivia Lynch, the co-founder of Black Baton Twirlers Network, about the challenges that are facing twirlers of color and how we can work together to overcome them. If you are watching this episode on YouTube, please drop us a comment, subscribe so you can see future episodes of Beyond the Steps. If you're on YouTube, or Facebook or Instagram, please share. Please tag someone who would be interested in this show, who can benefit from the information that Olivia is providing here today. And we would just love to have your comments and your questions here on Instagram and on Facebook. I am watching them, so if you have any, please definitely leave them there. We were talking about the intentional work of building community. And then you, in your story a little bit earlier, you talked about how someone, questioned whether you being highlighted was specifically a function of your skin tone. Did you get any pushback when you decided to create Black Baton Twirlers Network from people who felt like it was exclusionary?
Yes. We still kind of do. BBTN is less than a year old. Our birthday is actually on November 21st. I'm so
Oh,
excited.
congratulations!
Yeah, officially a 501c3 less than a year ago. But yes, we do get some pushback. And I think at that point, I always try to go to the higher ground. And in higher education, we always say it's a learning opportunity, whenever something happens. So I just take it as a learning opportunity to educate them about BBTN and just some things. Like a prime example is I posted something Aurora Tights was doing scholarships and grants for their performing color opportunity. And I had someone post like, why does BBTN why is there a Black Baton Twirlers network? Like, why do you need a group of just twirlers? And I was like, well, first of all, that's not even what we are. I was like, second of all, we're posting about scholarships open to everybody. Like, this is great. We don't really get this. So I took the time to, like, even though it didn't turn out the way I was hoping to, I took the time to at least educate them about Black Baton Twirlers Network, what we do, like the performance opportunities, and just a little bit about Aurora Tights and like why I was posting about it. But definitely get some pushback, and I think that's just with any type of diversity and inclusion. You know what I mean? Like any programs, like why are we doing this or why is this important? But if you haven't been in those shoes, like it's really hard for you to understand that. So I mean, as you know, like you're always going to have to educate people, even if you don't want to sometimes. But I think I always take it as an educational opportunity and, just keep it moving. Like, okay, like that just makes me want to prove it more to you of why BBTN is important and like what we do. I've always been that type of way. Obviously, I'm competitive. So, I always just was like, all right, that's great. Like, I guess we need to do more marketing or more outreach or do an event in that person's area, so they see what we do. And my executive board laughs at me. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do an event in this area, and they're like, you are crazy. But I'm like, no,
Going
because
there, like really?
like right here. But then, obviously, it just means that we need to have more education in that space and make it known of why it's important. But also to let everybody know, like, it's inclusive. Like, we're not trying to make it segregatory. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to elevate the sport of baton twirling. We're trying to create a space. We're trying to create a opportunity that continues baton twirling, because a lot of times you see twirlers of color not engaged with the sport. So we're really trying to like bring some life back into baton twirling with these opportunities, so they continue to engage, so they continue to invest, bring in their friends. So it's everyday life. I feel like it's not just with baton twirling, but you just keep it moving and keep educating and keep it positive.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You talked a little bit, you said something way, way back at the beginning of the show, and I put a pin in it here in my notes to come back to it. You mentioned excuse me, twirlers who identify as male. Is that a population of the baton twirling community, and is it growing?
Yeah, I do think that's another area of growth. I think
Okay.
right now it's a smaller population, but they are amazing twirlers. Like, some of them have been on America's Got Talent. They are, building these amazing teams and really giving back. But it definitely is a small community. And I think there is an area of growth of educating them, because if as you know, like as a dancer, baton and dance, a lot of naysayers think
Mm-hmm.
of it as feminine, but I don't see that way. You have to have that strength. You have to have, the confidence to be able, and it's competitive and it is athletic. But I think that's a barrier that kind of, doesn't allow a lot of people to join performance art sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's
definitely
very
an area of growth.
absolutely. I would love to talk more about that. Now I've got another show idea in my head. Like that would be a great show to
My
have.
vice president, John Mitchell. He'll talk about it for
Oh
hours.
yes, I would love that. See, we already got another show. Y'all tune in for that show. Be on the lookout for it. What would you like to see? You talked a little bit about like judge education. And I know there's probably some other areas. I mean, people who probably own the competitive space and things like that. What would you like to see done in these areas that would make this a more equitable and affirming space?
Yeah, I think right now BBTN is kind of providing that improvement. And
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody just needs to kind of jump on board and embrace it. I think we're just
Okay.
not there at the space, and it's just because it's not at the forefront of their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of other things that baton twirling is trying to do right now. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand it, but I definitely think education and racial diversity is a huge one, and not just for judges, but for coaches, for family members, for friends. I think that's big. So when I came across, Beyond the Steps and your stuff, I was like, this is fantastic. I like shared it everywhere. I was like, you need to watch this. Like, like this is a great professional development. But I think definitely that is an area where we're trying to educate people about it, and also bring more professionals of color into those spaces, because you don't see them a lot at clinics. You don't see them a lot at competition. So we started this judges collective, and really what it is, it's a network of aspiring judges and judges to help mentor new judges and get them through the processes to be able to become a new judge. Eventually, our goal is to also have grants for judges to utilize for licensing, for judges licensing, and also travel. So if a judge, if like a competition is looking to diversify their judging panels, but they don't have the budget for it, that they could apply for it and bring on a judge in, or we can pay for it and bring a judge in through like travel or hotel. So we're trying to work together to provide this resource. Again, like, you don't have to do the work because we're trying to do it. We're trying to reach out to all of our professionals, twirlers that retired, and we're trying to get them to come back. That's really where that Judges Collective is, but also providing workshops and opportunities for them to continue their education. You know, it's ever growing, it's ever learning, and that's where we're going with that. And then the other one is our clinics. I think clinics, professional development there, it's really lacking. And I think providing our own opportunities through BBTM, but also reaching out to some of those major clinics and saying like, hey, like, would you be interested in having someone new at your clinic? Or can we help you find someone in your area? Or can we go to a studio and offer some free clinics? So again, there's a lot of things that can be helpful to bridge that gap and provide more representation, but it's just not, again, if you don't understand it, it's not really on the forefront of your mind.
Right. That's really the exposure is so big. You might get 5 no's, but then you get 1 yes, and that 1 yes can lead to 2 more yeses and 3 more yeses. I'm gonna go back to something you just said. Judging licensure, is that required to judge?
Yeah, so there are,
Wow.
so there's different, so there is a whole process. So we have different organizations within the sport of baton twirling. And depending on what organization you're a part of, there's different licensing and different steps. So MBTA, it's one process. That's one of our organizations. USTA is another, and they have different steps and levels of depending on your judging. So yes, there are different judges licensed. You have to go through that process depending on the organization itself. And it does cost money. So that is a little bit of a barrier for anybody. So that's why we created this Judges Collective, and we are trying to, fundraise money to be able to start these grants so people can, anybody, it doesn't have to be just a performer of color, can apply for these grants to be able to get their judges license fees covered.
I highlighted that, and those people who watch us regularly know Brie and I are always saying there's no governing body of dance. There's no governing body. There's nobody who's watching out and watching for regulations and rules and things that are safe and protected. So to hear that there's licensure in the baton space is inspiring, and hopefully, one day we can come to a point where in dance we do have some type of just regulatory body, not necessarily controls the artistic piece of it or says you can and can't do X, Y, and Z, but that does keep people, youth particularly, safe and makes the space affirming. So I'm just going to throw that out there in the universe and hope that, somebody picks it up. There's lots of industries who are doing it. If you are joining us, we are finishing up on our episode of Beyond the Steps with Olivia Lynch, the co-founder of Black Baton Twirlers Network. We are talking about the challenges that are facing twirlers of color and how we can work together to overcome them. Olivia has given us some amazing information about what Black Baton Twirlers Network is doing, where she thinks the industry is going, and how we can possibly work to getting twirlers of color to have more support and have a greater and more tight-knit community there. If you want to hear this full episode, you can find those on Facebook at Apollo Performance. In the video section, you can find them on Instagram in TP Dance Creations link bio, as well as at Apollo Performance. On YouTube, all of the episodes are on both our YouTube channels as well. And you can get these episodes in your inbox. I'm going to drop the link to be able to sign up to get them in your inbox in all of the platforms. So please sign up there. We would absolutely love to have be able to send those to you so that you can share them with all of your friends, family, and use them as professional development. Olivia, it's time for homework. We give homework here at Beyond the Steps. We always ask our guests to give our viewers one small thing that they can do between now and next Friday to improve in this area.
Yeah, I think the first one is to watch this episode. But also, just do your research, connect with the Black Baton Twirlers Network, connect with Beyond the Steps, watch their amazing podcasts, their episodes, because they are everything that you all are talking about can be like intertwined with baton twirling. There's
Mm-hmm.
not any difference. So really just do your education, talk to people, connect with them, and try to find a safe space to talk through questions. Like, it's okay to ask questions, and I think that's the first step. Ask questions, see how it's going in your area, and how you can help. Volunteer, donate. That's my homework.
So take that on, take one small step, find your resources in your area and take advantage of them, please. We always have homework as well. Apollo Performance has a steps initiative. Make sure that you are going and taking the steps initiative, like Olivia said. It is fully transferable to a number of different performance artists, athletic communities. It is the same. Keeping people safe, keeping youth safe, making sure that we are affirming and caring for each other and supporting each other is not exclusive to dance. It's not exclusive to baseball or football or even baton. It's for everyone. So please make sure you go and take that course. It is totally free professional development for you. Also, our friends at YPAD offer absolutely amazing certifications that you can take, and using the code Apollo25 will get you 25% off of all of those certifications. So check them out there as well. And guest resources. I want to know, Olivia, how can people get in contact with you, and what resources do you have?
So you can go to our website, blackbatontwirlersnetwork.com. It talks a little bit about baton twirling, also the organizations, two of the many that I have mentioned. You can learn about them, how you can join, what are offered in your area. Is the biggest one is our website. Also, it links to Beyond the Steps and Apollo Abhorrence as well, and those certifications, because like I said, like I geeked out about it, so I was like, let's add it to our page. So if you're looking for those certifications, you can go right onto our website. You can also email me at blackbatontwirlersnetwork@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or just find me on Facebook, Olivia Lynch, and I'm happy to talk more about baton twirling, community building, professional development. And also just want to throw in there too, we are hosting our second annual Collegiate Symposium on December 10th, and it is an opportunity that anybody that wants to dance, twirl baton, be a part of the color guard in a collegiate setting, to talk to professionals, to talk to current collegiate members, higher educational staff. We talk about scholarships. We talk about how to apply, what opportunities are available in your area. So definitely a space to engage with us. Also, if you're in one of those spaces and want to talk about it, let me know. We're happy to have you a part of our panel. So definitely a few ways to engage with us in the next few weeks.
Great, and they can find information about that symposium on your website.
Yep, on our website, and also you can find it on our social media pages as well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Olivia, for being here. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and we can't wait to have you back.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, especially being able to talk about baton twirling and learn more about Beyond the Steps too, and Apollo Performance, but hopefully to talk to you again soon. And hi to everybody that's been commenting.
Yes.
Jesse, and a few of our beauty ambassadors. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it.
Got so many fans here in the comments. Thank you all for joining us. Everybody who viewed today on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. Thank you. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do this. You're the reason we do it. So please like, share, and subscribe. This episode is very important. It's very unique. It's not one that's out there a lot, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that will be helped and supported by the information that was given today. Like I said, we are doing a podcast. We are making a podcast of Beyond the Steps. We're going to batch it out in series. So the first one will be at the top of the year, and it'll be all the episodes from our start in October all the way through December. So please be on the lookout for that. There's also a blog that's going to be on the Apollo website, where if you're not into listening and not into watching, you can definitely be into reading. Then you can get the information there as well. Apollo Performance is the social media handle for all of Apollo's social media platforms, as well as TP Dance Creations for Turning Point Dance Creations. Next week, we're going to have part 2 of our series with Jan Dunn from the Bridge Dance Project, and we're going to be talking about what are the top 5 struggles and concerns of dance medicine professionals. So what are they seeing out there that they want to say, please pay attention to this. This is the big red flag where they're like, please pay attention to these things. This will be very helpful for anybody who's working with athletes to know what's out there on the horizon. Please share this episode. Like I said, recordings are found at Apollo Performance on all of the platforms, as well as at TP Dance Creations on all of the platforms. And you can get the episodes at that website address that I dropped in the chat. Until next time, everyone, please continue your journey beyond the steps. We will see you next Friday.